bad. And it's for people to stand up and challenge that. Otherwise we will be trodden. I read only this morning a piece that George put out on social media, a report by Alex Knight, the Chief Executive Officer, purporting that this change was in the interests of workers and that workers were going to love this. They'd be racing to work, they'd be so happy to be there. What a load of absolute codswallop, a load of nonsense in the extreme. What Samworth is doing is the same as Two Sisters and some other big employers in the food industry have been doing over the last couple of years. Firstly, they've jumped onto this so-called living wage, or the gimmick wage as we call it. The gimmick wage that allows employers to roll previously non-contracted benefits into your basic wage. So you lose, as Kumaran said, you lose your premium rates, you lose your overtime money, you lose your bank holidays, etc., etc. All in the employer's interest. But, says Alex Knight, they're going to invest £5 million a year in the pay bill over the next 3 years. Very, very easily done, colleagues. Because one, he gives himself a £500,000 pay increase, he increases his other allowances, and he increases what goes into his pension pot. He does that, his colleagues do the same, and there's about £100 left for every other worker between them. Doesn't take a mathematician to understand, they can steal the money from us, just like that. How do we fight that? Only one way, colleagues. Only one way to fight these people is to be together. And the only way to be together is to be a member of a trade union. Without trade union organisation, we have had it. I work in trade union education. I hear people say all the time, I can look after myself. No, you can't. You cannot stand up to these people on your own. You must be together. We must be together in unity and in solidarity in order to challenge these attacks on our terms and conditions and our working lives and the lives of our families. The only way to do it. And we in the Bakers Union, and I would point out to people that aren't too familiar with the Bakers Union, unlike some other unions whose names I won't give, unlike some other unions, we are a fighting union. Our executive, our president, our general secretary stand at conference and say, if they want to take us on, we will take them on. We will give it everything we can. Some unions will say, oh, you mustn't talk about industrial action, you must do what the employer says. We don't say that. We say, you come after us and we'll take you on. We did it successfully a couple of years ago at Hovis in Wigan, where they said they were introducing 0 hours contracts, increasing the use of agency labour and changing contracts for permanent workers. Our members at Hovis said, if you do that, we'll take industrial action. The employer says, take industrial action. We will take you on, we will win. The employer capitulated within 3 weeks. Our members won. There were no 0 hours contracts, there was no agency labour, and people who had been temporary got full-time permanent contracts. One of the speakers has already mentioned, we have a dispute going on just now at Pennine Foods in Sheffield. Pennine Foods in Sheffield makes ready-made meals for particularly Marks and Spencer. Doing exactly the same as Samworth is doing. Changing terms and conditions and racing everyone to the bottom. Our members at Pennine took them on, they said they wouldn't change. This is what you're getting, that's what you're going to have. The members went on strike. Pennine management is now back at the negotiating table. RF Brooks in Rogerstone, which used to have a place in Leicester, did exactly the same. Same business, same employer, same mentality. And one of our members was on BBC television news. And he was explaining to the reporter that these new terms and conditions that they were being subjected to would cost him £5,000 a year. It would take £5,000 a year from his salary. The members at RF Brooks and Rogerston says, right, we're going to do what our comrades at Hovis did. We're going to do what our comrades at Pennine did. We're going to do what comrades need to be doing all over the country. We're going to take industrial action. Management, surprisingly, now wants to sit down and talk to them. That is the only way forward. Given my job, people are forever asking me, the employer is doing this or that to me, can they do it? And my answer is always the same, ladies and gentlemen. The answer is yes. They can do whatever the heck they like, so long as we allow them to get away with it. And it's only when we stand up and say, no, enough is enough. We need this. This is our salary. This keeps us alive. This keeps bread on our tables. And it's only when we do that that the employer capitulates and sees sense. And we underestimate ourselves. And I said to my wife on the way over here this evening, food workers don't realise what strength they have. Everything that we do every day, most things we can get by without doing. One thing we can't get by without doing on a regular basis is eating food. We are in a very, very strong position. And Ian Hodson, our national president, Ian often says, we hail the miners in their great struggles over the years, the engineers in their great struggles, and so on and so forth, and quite rightly so. What we don't realise is the fact, if it hadn't been for food workers, these people wouldn't have been able to even survive to go to work. And people need to realise that we are an essential part of British society and indeed world society. But again, something I often say to people is, there is no magic wand. You join a trade union, you join it for solidarity and for unity, so that you stand together as a united.
Well, why are they attacking people for organising a trade union in their workplace? What have they got to be worried about? Well, there is lots of examples of trade unions actually winning decent terms and conditions for ordinary people and standing up for their members. For example, the Bakers Union have recently forced two sisters, the owners of Pennine Foods, back to the table after taking determined strike action. Now, we're not saying we use strike action lightly, but it's an option on the table if we need to. And so it can force the boss to make real concessions. The National Shop Stewards Network was set up 10 years ago in 2006. The Socialists were campaigning for a new Workers' Party, and we went to the RMT Union because they didn't support the Labour Party, and we said, look, can we have your help in this? Because we see the need, just us on our own, we can't win something, so we've got to get the organised workers involved. And they said, well, we need something like was around in the 1970s when all the trade unions had a common link at the grassroots level, and why can't we get that back again? They said, well, that's a good idea, let's go out and actually build for it. So the National Shop Stewards Network, a collection of rank and file trade unionists from across the country. The idea is that we support each other in struggle, we go along to each other's pickets, we give examples of where we've won victories, and we don't succumb to defeatism and isolationism by the boss trying to divide workers against each other. So we all support each other when we're attacked. As George said, an injury to one is an injury to all. And if you look at Samworth Brothers, they made £40 million worth of profits last year. They're big donors to the Tory party. And as Kumaran stated, the directors have done very well out of this. Now, where is the benefits to their employees? They're the ones who are actually doing the graft every day. They're not seeing anything from this, and in fact their conditions are being attacked. The only way we can win that back is by organising, by actually being recognised as a trade union and having the power to negotiate decent terms and conditions for all. That's the power of being in a trade union. So the National Shop Stewards Network will continue to stand up for workers in struggle. Our banner has been on picket lines across the country. Whatever the outcome of your pay dispute, we're going to be there. And we're not seeking to interfere with the ability of trade unions like the Bakers Union to run their own affairs, to run their own disputes. Because we see ourselves as helping people, but not telling workers how they should run. It's up to them at the end of the day, democratically deciding what we can do as a workforce. And if it goes to vote, ballot, we democratically decide where it goes. Now the government as well also see the power of trade unions, and they're trying to make it more difficult for workers to take effective action. They're trying to say you've got to have 50% of a whole workplace voting yes in a ballot. Now if that rule was applied to members of parliament or people who run for election, none of them hardly would ever be elected. It shows complete double standards on the part of the bosses. And so we need to fight against the trade union bill and for real democratic decision making. I think one other thing as well is that some trade unions have also been under attack and what's called check-off, where your trade union subs are automatically deducted from your pay slip. And I know that Tessa is a member of one of the unions that's been involved in this. And what they did was go round to all their members and say the importance of being in a union and actually go on a recruitment drive and seeing this not as an attack but as a challenge to get as many people signed up to the union as possible. And I think that is parallels here, because the bosses think that by intimidating one key individual they can put the frighteners on the workforce and stop them becoming active in a union. Well, they've got nothing to lose. The only option really, if you want the terms and conditions back, is to get involved, join a union and become active in your workplace. And don't let them be intimidated, because they will always make arguments that, oh, you can't bring the company into disrepute, or give us a bad name. Well, don't attack our terms and conditions then, is the answer. Don't take away our Sunday pay. Don't take away our bank holiday pay. Please just give us a fair deal of what we're entitled to. And the National Shop Stewards Network will support you in that. If anyone's interested in getting involved, we've got a conference coming up beginning of July in London, and there's plenty of people here involved in organising that who could give you details about that. Some leaflets at the back as well. Final plug, then I'll sit down and then we'll join the rest of the meeting. Thank you.